Let's talk about aluminum, ubiquitous in cans, cars, and for the eccentric, hats. It's the unsung hero of our daily lives, quietly holding together everything from your favorite soda to the frame of your bike, and even the foil you wrap your leftovers in. On July 29, 2025, the Trump administration didn't just raise the aluminum tariff, they launched it to 50% and revoked Canada's exemption. This was a dramatic move, one that sent shockwaves through the industry and caught many by surprise. Suddenly, our friendly neighbor to the north was treated as a trade adversary, all in the name of national security. The result? Chaos. Decades of cooperation were put on ice in a single announcement. The tariff jumped to $845 per ton, nearly doubling costs overnight. For manufacturers, this was like waking up to find the price of a key ingredient had exploded. Imagine borrowing sugar from your neighbor for years, then being charged the price of a wedding cake. That's how sudden and jarring this change felt for American businesses. This wasn't a tweak, it was an economic grenade tossed into North American trade. The shockwaves were immediate and far-reaching. Decades-old supply chains under the USMCA shattered instantly. Factories that once ran smoothly now faced delays and confusion. U.S. industries relying on Canadian aluminum faced crippling uncertainty and soaring costs. Many companies were forced to rethink their entire sourcing strategies. Prices in the U.S. spiked, while the global market scrambled to adjust. Everyday items from cars to canned goods became more expensive. The Chicago Midwest Premium, the U.S. aluminum benchmark, soared 60% over 2023 levels. This was a record-breaking surge that few saw coming. This was a direct tax on nearly every American manufacturer. The impact rippled through the economy, affecting jobs and production. Meanwhile, the London Metal Exchange saw prices dip as Canadian aluminum sought new buyers. The global market was suddenly awash with supply. The tariff built a wall, and Canada, unsurprisingly, decided to sell elsewhere. New trade routes opened up almost overnight. The shockwave was immediate. America's closest ally was now locked out, and the market was in turmoil. Trust between partners was shaken. The U.S. had set fire to the rulebook, and everyone was scrambling for cover. No one knew what would come next. The consequences would ripple far beyond the border, reshaping trade relationships and economic realities for years to come. Facing the tariff, Canada wasted no time finding new buyers. Smelters in Quebec and Ontario rerouted over 120,000 tons of aluminum, once bound for U.S. factories, straight to Europe. Rotterdam's warehouses were flooded with Canadian metal, receiving 4 times more than the previous summer. The supply chain shifted from north-south to east-west, linking Canada directly to the EU. This wasn't just a new market, it was a new advantage. Canadian aluminum is green, made with clean hydropower, unlike coal-smelted metal from elsewhere. Europe, eager for low-carbon materials, welcomed Canada's aluminum as a premium product. While U.S. industries scrambled, Canada forged lucrative new relationships. The tariff meant to punish Canada instead handed it a golden opportunity. America's loss became Europe's gain. Canada wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. For U.S. automakers, the tariff was a direct hit. Ford's F-150 Lightning, packed with aluminum, saw production costs jump by $200 per truck. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands and the losses are staggering. GM's Blazer EV lost over a percentage point in profit margin, a huge blow in a tight-margin industry. Factory delays doubled as just-in-time Canadian shipments vanished. Tesla, reliant on Canadian aluminum for its massive castings, now pays thousands more per shipment or seeks costly workarounds. Automakers can't just swap materials, their designs and certifications depend on aluminum. The choice: absorb the cost or pass it to consumers and risk sales. The tariff, meant to protect, was actively harming America's biggest manufacturers. Production bottlenecks, higher prices, and lost competitiveness became the new normal. The policy backfired, hurting the very industry it aimed to help. The aviation sector was hit just as hard. Boeing's Dreamliner relied on a special, low-carbon Canadian alloy, now behind a tariff wall. Forced to look elsewhere, Boeing turned to Indonesia and China, where aluminum is made with coal, not hydropower. The carbon footprint of these alternatives is 5 times higher. This isn't just bad for the planet, it's a business risk. The Department of Defense is moving toward carbon scoring in contracts, making high-carbon planes less competitive. The tariff, meant to boost security, ironically weakened a key defense contractor. Boeing swapped a clean, reliable supply from an ally for a dirtier, riskier one from rivals. The unintended consequences were strategic, economic, and environmental. America's aerospace edge was now at risk. The US uses a staggering 4.7 million tons of aluminum every year, but it produces only about 750,000 tons domestically, a fraction of what's needed to keep up with demand. For years, Canada filled most of that gap, supplying reliable, clean aluminum until tariffs suddenly blew a 2 million ton hole in the supply chain. So what about alternatives? Russia is off limits, and other major producers like those in Europe and Australia simply can't ramp up exports fast enough to make a real difference. The market is tight. You can't conjure millions of tons of aluminum overnight, no matter how urgent the need. The US is left scrambling for scrap metal and imports from less desirable sources. Recycling helps ease the pressure, but there's simply not enough scrap available to meet the soaring demand, especially when it comes to high-purity alloys needed for advanced manufacturing and aerospace. The bitter irony is that as clean Canadian aluminum was blocked, US imports of Chinese coal-powered aluminum surged by 34%, a dramatic and unintended consequence. The policy meant to protect American jobs instead increased reliance on a strategic rival and dirtier, more polluting metal. The US traded a trusted partner for a polluting competitor. The result? Higher costs for manufacturers, more pollution in the air, and no easy way out of this self-made dilemma. The math simply doesn't add up, and the numbers keep getting worse. The tariff cornered the US market, and left it weaker, more vulnerable, and searching for answers. While the US struggled, Canada turned its clean aluminum into a commercial triumph. Canadian aluminum, made with hydropower, emits just 1.3 tons of CO2 per ton, far cleaner than coal-smelted metal. Europe's carbon tax system gave Canada a huge price advantage. Dirty aluminum faces a $2,000 tax, while Canada's faces almost none. Ottawa seized the moment, marketing green aluminum as a climate solution and locking in premium contracts. Plans are underway to double down with new subsidies and European investment in even cleaner smelters. The US tariff meant to punish effectively subsidized Canada's rise as a green metals superpower. Environmental performance now matters as much as price. Canada earns a green premium for the same product the US rejected. One country's security threat is another's eco-friendly asset. Canada isn't just weathering the storm, it's sailing ahead. The global trade game has changed. So, what did the 50% aluminum tariff actually achieve? Was it a masterstroke of economic policy or a misstep with unintended consequences? Instead of protecting American industry, it raised prices on everything from trucks to soda cans, affecting everyday consumers and businesses alike. Companies like Procter & Gamble and Hershey warned of profit hits, costs that were inevitably passed on to consumers, making daily essentials more expensive. Worse, the policy increased pollution by blocking clean Canadian aluminum and boosting imports from coal-powered rivals, exacerbating environmental issues. Boeing and others now rely on dirtier, less reliable sources, compromising both quality and environmental standards. US smelters saw a brief boost, but new capacity is expensive and slow to build, making it a temporary and costly solution. The tariff is a short-term fix with long-term pain, creating more problems than it solves. It alienated a key ally, disrupted supply chains, and made America more dependent on polluting competitors, undermining its own goals. The result: higher costs, more emissions, and no real security gain, leaving both the economy and environment worse off. The aluminum shockwave is a warning. Simple solutions can create complex disasters, rippling through multiple sectors. Sometimes the walls you build to protect yourself become your own prison, trapping you in unforeseen ways. The lesson? Trade policy needs more than slogans. It needs strategy, foresight, and a deep understanding of global dynamics.